2018's been off to kind of a weird start. Usually it's January that has just the worst movies of the year. This February has really surprised us. It's been rough. The 1517 to Paris was directed by Clint Eastwood and stars Alex Skarlatos, Anthony Sadler, and Spencer Stone. Now, the interesting thing about that casting is that these three young men were cast to play themselves in this movie. This is the story of a heroic event that changed their lives. Now, as far as the acting goes in this movie, I was a little curious to see how it would pan out. These three have never had any acting experience beforehand, and they've had Clint Eastwood here directing a movie with them in it. So I was very interested to see how this one would turn out. Now, a lot of critics have really panned the acting in this movie, and I feel like it's a very easy target. Honestly, though, I thought the acting was pretty good, all things considered. I felt like they did all right. I mean, you can tell that they haven't been in a million movies, obviously, but I feel like they did a good job with what they were given. And for me, the problems of this movie lie more with the script and with the direction. Another thing that I'd like to mention is the train scene. It is very, very real. I was surprised. I honestly just felt like I was witnessing this in real life. It felt like it was happening in real time. There was no musical score going along with it, so everything that you heard was what I imagine a lot of people heard sitting in that train on that day. It really helped pull me into the movie. Unfortunately, though, this scene was very short and came at a pretty late point in the movie.
So I'm actually a big Clint Eastwood fan. I'm not hugely familiar with his old stuff, but I really liked some of his newer stuff like Million Dollar Baby and Gran Torino. I think he's an excellent director, and his career has gone on for years, and I think he absolutely deserves every bit of praise that he's gotten. So I was actually pretty excited to go into this movie. I thought, it was another Clint Eastwood movie, and he's proved himself. I was sadly mistaken. Now, I don't want to bash Eastwood on this, but this is definitely one of his weaker, if not his weakest movie. This movie just was not interesting at all. It lasts for about an hour and a half. There's 10 minutes of cool stuff that happens right at the end of the movie, and then it's over. Now, the pacing is the biggest issue if it's not the story. I mean, those two kind of go hand in hand. It's a really cool story about some heroes that stopped a terrorist attack on a train, and it's really cool, and he actually casted the real people that went through the real event. But the way that this story is told is boring. It takes forever to get to the end goal, and the payoff really just was not worth it. Now, talking about the directing a little bit, now the first part of the movie takes place as they were kids. They have some child actors that did a passable job. You also have Pam from The Office, Jenna Fisher. That was kind of an odd casting choice, but it was what it was. And throughout this childhood thing, they go through these kind of defining moments as children that are not only boring, but after these defining moments happen, they'll show clips of the actual terrorist attack. And this happens like 3 or 4 times. And then after they become adults, there's like a full 45 minutes where they don't cut to that. And it's like, why was that necessary when they were kids? It just didn't make any sense. And that brings me into my biggest issue with this movie, and that is the fact that this is an hour and a half long movie, and it is an hour and 10, if not an hour and 15 minutes of backstory. Like, lots of backstory, like to the extent that it's like you're moving along with the movie and you don't know what the end goal is. It doesn't make sense. It's boring, for lack of a better word. Now, I think it's really cool that they wanted to set up these characters really well, and I mean, they dedicate a lot of time to it, which is, it's all right, it's cool, but it just drags for a long period of time. Like, there are kids for like the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie, and then they're adults, and then they go into boot camp for the military, and then they go on a vacation to Europe that is so boring. I was sitting there like watching these three dudes on a vacation in Europe, and just like, where is this going? Why is this necessary? And overall, I just thought the movie was bland. It was not a service to these people that did a really heroic thing. I was bored. The ending 10 minutes was cool, but it was literally 10 minutes of an hour and a half long story, and the time it took to get there was not worth the payoff.
You know, as I watched this movie, I increasingly started to feel bad for these three young men. I felt like they deserved a much better movie, and unfortunately, this just wasn't it. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10.
You know, I feel bad for doing this, but looking at this movie from a critical perspective and with how much I enjoyed myself watching the movie, I did not like it. I'm unfortunately going to give this movie a 2 out of 10. So thanks as always, guys, for watching. Leave a like if you agreed what we had to say, or with what we had to say, and subscribe if you want to see more. We'd love the support, and thanks again, guys. If you didn't like what we had to say, then leave a comment, leave a dislike, and we'll respond to whatever comments we can. Thanks, guys.